So as I said this morning, one of the other big things that we've done and that we're going to introduce to all of our customers is a new document management capability, what we call IDM, Infor Document Management. Strangely enough, and you may not have known this, we've actually introduced it to the market around about 23rd of March because the IDM product itself was generally available, but the integration with SunSystems was announced at that point. So, we're quite excited about it as a capability, so I'm just going to take you through kind of what it means to a SunSystems customer as well, hopefully show you a quick glimpse of the product working, and then take some questions, and then you can have a much deserved tea and coffee and cake. So business challenges that we see, and this has been something that we've seen in SunSystems for a long time particularly, is finding and working with the correct documents being in other places, compliance and audit. I've worked in finance departments, and the biggest bane of your life potentially is auditors coming in asking for copies of invoices, etc. They're in a dusty cupboard in the back of the office somewhere. Nobody wants to go and get them. It's all of a challenge. And ultimately, the complexity of integrating those documents with the financial system. So we've been aware of that. So, ultimately, with what we've done with our own Infor document management is look to increase that, productivity, accuracy, cut that audit and compliance time. And ultimately, and I think probably this is the biggest thing for us, particularly with SunSystems, is actually integrating those documents into your business and your process. And I think one of the things you'll see, particularly as I say, I've got a short 2-3 minute demo, is it kind of brings alive some of the things that we have spoken about in terms of mingle, social business collaboration, how we can share those documents across the organisation. And I think the important thing for us with IDM and document management is that it's not just restricted to finance. This is a proper DMS system that you could use across the organisation, not just within finance. So, what we're going to bring you is integration, timely information, collaboration, absolutely secure storage, better productivity and lower TCO when you're talking about managing your documents. Really important for us. And ultimately, as beauty is a competence, and that's what we try and do and make our applications look nice. It's going to look like that, and you can have that on any number of different devices. So here, kind of the iPad device, mobility devices, you can access those documents anywhere, anytime. And so that's really what we've done to provide that experience. And really, the most important thing, as I say, for us, is this thing we could talk about is in context, the contextual nature of a document. So the idea being is that you could be anywhere in SunSystems, for instance, or you could even be in iPOS, you could be in a supplier or customer portal, for instance. And what we do is we publish these messages which are contextual, which means that if you've got an invoice reference number, a supplier reference, you only need that reference anywhere in the system, and you can pull back that document that relates to that piece of information. So that's a really useful technique. You don't have to go searching for a document in a big archive. You can actually get those in context to what you're doing wherever you are and how you choose to see those documents. So that's really important for us. And as I say, I think the important thing is that some of the things we've done with our technology footprint is really brought alive with this contextual capability. So there you go, in context of applications and processes. Because ultimately, as I said, it's like finding a needle in a haystack. Where are these documents? Documents get lost. There's no audit trail. There's no metadata attached to those documents. And there isn't a common search experience. The idea here being is that there's a common search experience. There's a common way of looking for and retrieving documents. And they would be available in many different mediums and different applications. And again, web-based. So IDM, really the difference that we provide is a common repository for all types of documents, and that they can be PDF, Word documents, anything really, and you can search for them very quickly and easily. And again, extend that footprint across the organisation. So you can add users, they could be just, an auditor who comes in, and you can grant them access to the repository to search for the documents. So regulatory compliance, obviously important. One of the things you'll see with IDM is a full sort of check-in, check-out process, a document update when it was changed, when a new version of the document was put into the repository. So, the time and cost to manage those documents is much reduced. And one thing that we've seen in a number of organisations is a number of disparate solutions that provide document management. We see sometimes an HR department, for instance, has a document management system that they use. And there's just lots of different sources of those documents and maintaining them and the integration. And as I say, our solution that we're going to provide to you all, make available to you all, is one single solution that can work across the enterprise, across the organisation. It's proprietary to Infor. As I say, it's something that we've developed and we've brought to market. So it's that one integrated solution across the board. Those documents could be anywhere within the organisation and you can access them. So, those documents are spread out. As I say, the benefit of IDM as well is that it's a common API that we've developed. And so if we go back to this morning's session when we talked about the supplier portal, etc., there's absolutely, our intent and the delivery that we will have is that those documents will be in one single source. What we saw in the portal this morning, in actual fact, was us calling directly from SRS, which is our SunSystems-based reporting tool, but that absolutely could be a document management solution in this form, as well as pulling in documents that relate to iPOS and your procurement processes. So what is IDM? I guess in conceptual terms for us, particularly for SunSystems users, it's our go-forward document capture and document archiving solution. It's fair to say across the Infor product lines, not just SunSystems, we've got a number of organisations who provide this to us, typically via third parties. And that's very difficult for us to manage, particularly as we're trying to push a common technology stack, a common way to interface and work with Infor applications. So what we'll provide is that core DMS document management functionality. One of the big things that's particularly pertinent and relevant to finance users, obviously, is the way that you can use OCR technologies, optical character recognition, to scan in an invoice, and that posts that invoice directly into SunSystems, for instance. We have some organisations who do that for us currently. But again, what we're doing is, from an Infor perspective, is having that single document management solution, and we'll be using one organisation, an organisation called Effisoft, who are a cloud-based vendor of OCR solutions, to provide that OCR piece for us across all of our applications, working against IDM only. Okay, so we won't work with any other document management solution. So we have an OEM agreement with them. And as I say, that additional OCR piece will come separate to what we deliver in terms of the core document management capabilities. One of the things that we're trying to do across the board at Infor is sort of remove the reliance on Microsoft, particularly in terms of things like SharePoint. Not every organisation has a SharePoint strategy. When we looked at document management previously, we went down the route of working with SharePoint. But we realised that was expensive for many organisations, wasn't really the direction that we wanted to go in. So what we provide is now Java-based and on PostgreSQL. And PostgreSQL, for instance, is something that we're looking to adopt across all of our applications as a bit more of a agnostic way of interfacing at that level. The IDM integration features the SOHO XI checklist. So that's our next generation of Infor 10X. So really what that means is it's got the same look and feel as SunSystems, as LN, or any of the other applications that Infor has in its stable. So that common look and feel, it will look exactly the same as everything that you use today. So we did have this thing called the Infor Content Assistant, and again, if any of you have been to any of the previous presentations I've done, we've shown that previously within Mingle, and that was a way of attaching documents to records within SunSystems. But again, there was the SharePoint reliance. That really didn't work for us. It didn't work for SunSystems customers. So we moved away from that and removed that and went in this direction. So it provides that Mingle interface again. So again, if we go back to what I spoke about this morning, you'll have the option to use Mingle if you want to. And it uses our existing IBC messaging service. And without wishing to get particularly technical, the IBC stands for Infor Business Context Messaging. So basically what that means is if you're working in an invoice record, an order record, whatever it might be, SunSystems silently behind the scenes publishes some information about that record. And really what that does is it uses that to marry that to the document that you're working with and provides a link. And that link exists throughout SunSystems. So you'll be able to upload, store, view, retrieve multiple document types, all within SunSystems. So, looking at it, pictorially, you'll get a capture platform, which will give you document collaboration, content integration, a document repository, and a document archive. That will be the foundation layer of IDM that we will provide to you. In terms of availability, as I say, it went silently out of the door, and so it is available now. We do have a couple of customers already using IDM, SunSystems customers using IDM. Available with 6.1, 6.2, 6.2.1. We're looking at, obviously, how we potentially extend that to other versions, potentially with version 4 as well. IDM version there and the Mingle versions that it supports also. IDM itself is a standalone product. It doesn't have to be hand in glove with SunSystems. It's a document management system in its own right, and so it can run standalone if you'd want to do that. So basically what you've got is you've got some inputs there, so you can scan in documents. Then we've got the storage piece. We used to, and we still do in fact, support IBM, DB2 and Microsoft SharePoint, but what we wanted was to deliver this without any additional cost to you as a user in terms of that SharePoint or IBM infrastructure. So we've now got our own Infor-owned content repository. And that's obviously then the next piece is connecting those documents to records and then pulling those records back as and when you need them with those documents. So the basic flow of what we're providing for DMS. So integration-wise, we can connect via Mingle. So we have a web part, these widget things again. I saw a little bit of that this morning in terms of the pure SunSystems widgets. So these listen to the IBC messages that we produce. So it says, I'm an invoice, and this is my invoice reference. And then in context, we attach those documents, and they marry themselves to the SunSystems business objects themselves. And that obviously enables you to share via Mingle and other ways. One of the things that we've added very recently, and again, you saw a little glimpse of that in the portal this morning, is the embedded SunSystems reporting archiving. So we use SunSystems reporting services in version 6, where we generate invoices, trial balances, all of those sort of things. And so when you create those reports now, what happens is you can, using the document format setup, say that it goes to the IDM repository automatically. And what happens is that's tagged with metadata. So again, anywhere when you're in the system, if that's a sales invoice, a purchase order, whatever it might be, it's going to publish that purchase order or sales invoice reference number. And wherever you hit that within SunSystems, you will be able to pull up any associated document, which is quite a nice feature. You don't even need to think about it. So in terms of SunSystems, how does it work? So you'd navigate to a SunSystems record, account record, journal, whatever it might be. And as I say, these IBC messages just shout out. We have 98 functions enabled at 6.2. So again, from sales, purchasing, journals, static data records. An IDM will read that message for the identification and tagging properties. You'll simply attach the document, and the document attachment is really simple. You can drag and drop from your desktop, for instance. And then it has that metadata tagged, and it's stored in the repository. Full security. Obviously, you might have some sensitive documents that you have, and so there's full permissions available, so you might not want a certain group of people to see certain documents, etc. And that's fully possible. So I've mentioned this briefly about the document format setup, and this was a development specifically that we did at SunSystems 6.3. And again, really just the sense to show you that there is a lot going on with SunSystems, lots of things that we are doing. And as I say, from a pure SunSystems application perspective, that means your documents that you produce in SunSystems will automatically, without even you knowing about it, go to the IDM repository, okay, which is a really nice feature. So a couple of screen grabs of kind of what it means to us, really, in terms of the contextual application. So again, you know, not wishing to labour the point, we spoke about this morning. We've got Infor, Mingle, Ion, that technology stack, which is going to be the fabric of SunSystems. So here we're seeing Mingle, which is our wraparound frame to SunSystems, and we have these widgets. So we're in a record within an application in M3, here, for instance, here, and you can contextually add those documents into that record, and they will just reveal themselves as and when you need them. There is obviously an IDM client itself, so natively within IDM itself you can bring up the client and look at the documents that you have you know, within the repository. Full free text searching in the repository itself, so you can search on any number of attributes that are applied to a document. Free text searching, as I say, many ways to find a different document. So there's different uses for a document. You know, because we use this concept of attributes, there's really some nice things that we can do. So we could be working with a supplier, for instance, and we could list all of the invoices due for a supplier based on the attributes of that particular document, which is all definable. We can also work with dates, things like that as well. So list all of the invoices that are due today, list all the invoices paid yesterday. So that's all to do with the attribute that we supply to the record itself. I'm trying not to get too technical, and you'll get these slides and you can see them, but basically, you know, pictorially, this is really what's happening, is that we have this IBC messaging, and it's going to give that entity some attributes, the journal number, the ID, etc., which will then make that document available wherever you work within SunSystems. And again, in terms of the document types themselves, you'll see here there's any number of things that you can work with: GIFs, PDFs, JPEGs, whatever it might be, Word documents. It really doesn't matter. IDM will accept and work with all of those document types. One thing that we're not introducing instantly, we're working on this currently, because again, the accounts payable automation process for finance users particularly, we know is critical. So what we're not introducing instantly is this OCR capability in terms of automating the accounts payable process. We're currently building this out at the moment, and we will be delivering that shortly. Effisoft is the partner who's going to help us with that. We're going to be using their OCR technology, who we're partnering with for IDM specifically. So that's going to be an add-on really to the IDM that we're just going to, you know, make available to you all. So that's going to be a generic capture solution that will work across all of our applications, building it one time, that will work across Systems and a number of applications within Infor. This, in its initial format, is going to work off of BODs, and again, if you've listened to any of our presentations on Infor Ion, that's the technology we use to publish XML files and pass information, data interchange essentially, and that's how that process will work. So you'll scan in a document, an invoice, the OCR will read that, it's going to transform it into XML. That XML document will then be passed automatically, once approved, into SunSystems and post the transaction. So essentially that's the basics of how that will work. And as I say, a bit of a technical diagram there, but essentially what you're seeing is we'll scan the invoice, Effisoft does that capture process, it's going to send that output to Ion, Ion's going to do some transformation to make it into XML, it's going to be approved in Ion, and then it's going to journal import it straight into SunSystems. So from an invoice that you receive in the post, for instance, you scan it in, you're not going to touch it again. Once the OCR has read and understood and learnt that invoice, as soon as it's scanned, it's going to go into the process. There's no manual rekeying. You don't need to touch that document again. And of course, what it's doing in the background is still applying those in-context attributes. So the document will be in the repository and the archive, and you can recall that document any time that specific reference is called upon. So that will be coming. So I've got a few screen grabs again of kind of what it's going to look like in terms of what we can do. So here we're just picking up a document from the desktop, documents library, and just bringing it into IDM. And again, it's full drag and drop. You could just pick the document up, you could just drag it, drop it into the widget, and then that document's going to be stored in the repository attached to the record within SunSystems itself. And that will appear. And again, I've got a little demo which will walk you through some of this just in a second, but once the document is in the repository, obviously what we can do is we can share that, we can make that available to other users, and again, wherever we are within SunSystems where we're publishing those context messages, that document will be available to recall at any point. So we've got an XBRL document here, for instance, that we're using. And you can see here, it's just going to give you some information about the document type itself, if it's been checked out date, who modified it, date and timestamp, and again, fully auditable. So, one of the great benefits, again, is, sort of adding some a structure to quite an unstructured business process when you're talking about disparate documents flying around the organisation. They're going to be held in one central place with full check-in, check-out, and also when those documents are updated, when they were replaced. So again, just another view of that document sitting within IDM itself. Can be any type of document, and as I say, attached to any type of record within SunSystems itself. And again, I've included some of these screen grabs really for all of you when you get a copy of the PowerPoint, so you could just conceptualise some of this and imagine what it's going to look like. So in this case, I've just got a sales order that's being processed on the system as well. So what I'll do, I'm going to launch a little video, and this is just going to show you kind of how it works and it working in action.
If we drill into journal inquiry, you can then see we've got two journal lines. You can open up the web part to the right hand side, and you see there's no content attached. Quite easy to attach an invoice to the journal, upload it, and then that document will be associated to that journal. You can drill right through into IDM and have a look at the document itself. You can see the properties here on the right hand side, the journal number that it's attached to, some additional properties such as when it was uploaded, version history, security. There is also powerful searching capability by checking out what you've checked in. Drilling into any document you have access to. And you can also search by document repository and any keyword. If we go back and take a look inside Mingle, we can see a social post here and drill back into SunSystems. Here we've selected an asset master record, and we can see the picture of the asset there and some of the associated documents. Just to show it contextual, you can drill through the records, and you see that there's nothing attached to the next item, but the previous one, the context is still there. You can also attach content by dragging and dropping it from your PC onto the IDM web part, which will upload it automatically to my asset record. If we navigate through, we can see the new file. The user could actually share this file with another user at this point. So in my example here, I'm going to share the depreciation breakdown that I've just attached to this asset. and ask one of my colleagues to check it for me. So if we drill back into Mingle and just refresh the feed, we can see the post that has been made from the IDM web part, allowing the user to drill directly into IDM, download the Q&A report,
So very brief sort of view. We're not going to go into Excel and see the depreciation report itself, but hopefully you'll just get from that short example what we're delivering, what's capable, what we can do with IDM. You know, very simple drag and drop techniques. Those documents in context to any record within SunSystems. And as I say, that's available now. We can do this today. And as I say, IDM itself will stand alone. You can have IDM operating, you know, outside of SunSystems if you wanted to for any type of document across the organisation. It will work in exactly the same way. But really where IDM lifts itself up and goes back to the importance of what I said this morning about this technology layer is that all of a sudden, you know, we're seeing people understanding what Mingle means in terms of that business collaboration. So in this case, we're sharing a document with other users, and we can pass that around the organisation as necessary. When you get the deck, there is another example in here. This just talks about some pure SunSystems capabilities, about standard reports and documents in SunSystems, and again, how they're uploaded and used within IDM itself. So I'm good for time, which is great. I've rattled through. So really, that's IDM. We're excited about it. You know, it's a really neat product. And as I say, you know, we're going to make this available to all of you to utilise. I think, you know, it's a great opportunity. Again, not restricted just for sole use for SunSystems related documents, but again, because of what we're providing in terms of that technology layer, you can really see how it comes alive with Mingle and collaborating with those documents. So that was it. I've done really well. Has anyone got any questions?
Yes. Your presentation is linked into iPOS.
Yes.
iPOS has a view invoice button.
Yep.
Can that view invoice button pull the data out of your new shiny IDMs?
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. So, although I've not just, you know, overtly spoken about iPOS as such, you know, the absolute idea is that what we're going to have is a single content repository for any document that you use across the board. So iPOS, SunSystems, those documents are going to exist in one repository. And as I say, the important thing for us is that contextual nature of that. So if we again go back to what we showed this morning in terms of the portal, again, that contextual nature of those documents will be present across the board because of the views that it's using in the background to retrieve those documents.
In iPOS, you can just point to a field and say that's the link to the IDM.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Because the beauty of IDM, particularly working in conjunction with SunSystems, is that what we'll be doing in IDM and SunSystems is searching for those messages. They'll effectively be polling in the background. So as long as the iPOS view includes that link, then absolutely.
So can that then link into Q&A? So for example, you wanted to send one of your cost centre approvers a list of all the outstanding invoices. So if it's gone through document management and you do a Q&A report of the list of the invoices outstanding, will that then automatically, will they be able to click in that and see the invoice?
I mean, yeah, absolutely. We haven't done it, but yeah, absolutely. Because again, because of the way that IDM works in terms of it's looking for certain key references and fields that it publishes in that metadata layer, yeah, absolutely. That's what we'd expect to do.
And what's the likelihood that you will actually get it to link with Sun 4?
I'd like to do it for sure. If I've got anything to do with it, then absolutely we'd like to do it. What we're trying to figure out is how we kind of just cut the footprint down a little bit for a V4 customer. But at the end of the day, the capability is there in terms of the document archive. So it's just some of the finer tuning in terms of a V4 customer. But it would be a great opportunity, and certainly it's on our roadmap of things that we want to introduce for a V4 customer as well. Because to be able to, have a document capability within V4 would be terrific. Something we've wanted for a long time. So obviously, what you won't get is the full experience in terms of mingle and all of that sort of stuff. But the idea would be, in a record in SunSystem, we're looking at a new, a fill button to have in there that you click and it would just reach out to IDM. That's the idea.
Hi. Having just spent a lot of time and effort working with Infor to put in an OCR and document management system ourselves, how's that? Obviously, you're linking up with Effersoft now.
Yes.
We're not with Effersoft because you put us with somebody else. Yeah. How does that link in, or is that just like we're going to have to lose that piece of work? No. I mean, one of the things we're not doing, and I guess this is a common question around SunSystems and the products and the associated products that we have. We're not moving away from them at all. Absolutely not. That's not our intention. I think what it is that IDM is relatively new to Infor. As I say, it was part of the M3 product line. It just so happens, in actual fact, because of a lot of the development work that we've been doing anyway, that IDM was actually a very quick and easy fit for us. One of the things across Infor that we have is a plethora of OCR and document management providers and vendors, and that differs across product. And clearly, for Infor, it's better to, that they wanted to have one of their own. So we're not, closing the door to anything else. What we're saying is this will be available for customers to utilise. Obviously, the Effersoft part of it is actually very new. That's only just come on in the last couple of months. The document management piece was there, and we have that capability. But we needed to make a decision about an OCR vendor that we partnered with. So if we had a whole series of images we're collecting now, we can put them into the IDM?
Yep, absolutely. Marvellous. Yep, absolutely. And that's really how we see things. And as I say, because it's just a pure content repository, you could take any document that you've got that exists in your organisation and just put it straight into IDM.
Grand. So you don't need that Effersoft specifically, but if you were going in line...
No, absolutely. No, and apologies if I didn't make that clear. That's not absolutely a requirement. Where we're most excited in actual fact is the capability of actually just having the documents there and you've got your own repository. If you really wanted to do the OCR stuff, for instance, there are options and there are choices, obviously, but it's the document piece that's most important to us because we didn't have that.
Grand, thanks.
Okay.
Any other questions?
Probably here. Yeah.
The OCR side of things, I'm looking at a solution that does OCR. And then puts the invoice into iPOS as part of the approval process. Is that something that you're considering as part of that next step?
Yeah, absolutely. And again, a lot of these things have happened very quickly for us, and it's nice to be able to come and talk about them today. One of the things we're doing with Andrew and the wider team at PA is looking how we close those gaps at the second to make sure that it's one solution, one suite. As I say, iPOS and what we do with PA is critically important to us. So absolutely, that's our intention because it makes absolute sense to have one solution that works across the board.
And Andrew, are you looking at advanced inquiry, being able to link the same sort of things?
I wouldn't say specifically advanced inquiry, but certainly the framework for all PA products is a common framework. So if we're looking at this integration, which we're obviously doing so with iPOS, then that sort of framework will reflect through into the other PA products. So in due course, you'd expect to see the same thing emerging into Collect, for example, CSB, which is our sales invoicing module. AQ, obviously it could be beneficial to have a drill down into that sort of thing in the same way as you can for Q&A. So yeah, I would say in due course, but I can't say specifically for AQ currently. Any other questions?
Philip?
One more, James.
Yep.
I picked up from your earlier session
Mhm.
that the extended analysis
Yes.
will now be included,
Yes.
free.
Yes.
So when can we have it? If we've just already got the 621.
Yeah. So if you have 6, essentially, it's made available to every customer. So although it is controlled by key, so it is by serialisation. So you will need a serialisation for it, but there's no cost attached to it now. So it'd be requesting the key, and that would be absolutely fine. So yeah, if you want it, that's all you need to do is request it and just make sure it's added to your key.
Is that all?
Any more? Okay, brilliant.